Hello, this is Dr. Scott Kilberg, the Video Foot Doc, here with another video for you on all things foot and ankle. Today I would like to talk to you about what a diabetic shoe is. Now, some of you who are diabetic may have heard about a diabetic shoe, and many of you actually are probably wearing them. A diabetic shoe is simply a shoe who, by definition, is designed a little bit differently than a traditional shoe. Unfortunately, many diabetics, in fact most diabetics, get a nerve disease called peripheral neuropathy, in which the sensation of the feet just simply aren't as good as they should be due to the long-term process that diabetes causes on numerous different body systems, the nerves being one of them. The unfortunate part about this is that most diabetics can't feel when something is slowly rubbing against their skin, such as a tight shoe or some other component of the shoe that could be causing irritation against the skin. Eventually, these areas of irritation may form wounds or sores, especially if there's a prominent bone in the skin underneath the area where it's contacting the shoe. This is a very preventable type of problem because many of these wounds can form infections, and some people actually have lost part of their feet or part of their leg as a result of infections and other types of more serious complications that have occurred just starting off because of a skin wound on the foot that had been created because it rubbed against the shoe. So the concept of a diabetic shoe is a shoe that is designed to prevent these types of problems from occurring. By definition, a diabetic shoe is actually what's called an extra depth shoe. I'll use this shoe as an example. This is made by a company called Dr. Comfort, but there are many other companies out there that produce high quality diabetic shoes as well. An extra depth shoe is essentially a shoe that is designed such that the area where the toes sit, or basically that we call it the toe box, is created so that there's more depth to it. So the tops of the toes aren't going to rub against the top material of the shoe. Now, lots of people who are also diabetic also have a condition called hammer toes, in which their toes are contracted like this. And that just makes the tops of toes more prominent against the layer of shoe that's going to strike them. So with an extra depth shoe, the toes, even if they're contracted upward, aren't going to contact the top of the shoe, and that will protect the skin on top of the toe from developing wounds and sores. A diabetic shoe also needs to be extra wide. It needs to have such a width to it that the outline of the foot on either side, even if there are conditions present like bunions or Taylor's bunions or other bony prominences which are going to create pressure against the sides of the shoe, with this extra depth that's not going to happen, and with this extra width rather, that's not going to happen, and the sides of the feet aren't going to come into contact with the shoe, and you'll be able to prevent developing wounds in the first place. Diabetic shoes are also very stiff and very stable so that there aren't any extra added strain that occurs to the foot. And one of the more important considerations in a diabetic shoe is the use of an insert of a special material called plastizote. This type of material has been used for many years to protect feet from friction and pressure situations that can lead to wounds on the bottom of the feet. This type of insert is essentially heat molded so that it takes some of the contour of the bottom of the foot, and the material itself will help to protect the bottom of the foot from developing wounds and sores. Sometimes some diabetics require actually a custom-made device made out of the same material because they have a foot deformity that requires more protection than what a standard diabetic insert will provide. But essentially, when you combine an extra depth shoe with an extra width shoe in something that's actually physically constructed to be suitable for diabetics, along with a proper insert that's designed for diabetics, you can avoid many different problems associated with shoes causing diabetic wounds and other types of injuries that can potentially lead to amputations. Diabetic shoes are certainly a covered service under Medicare's guidelines. Some other third-party insurance companies do offer coverage for diabetic shoes as well. Not all diabetics have to have diabetic shoes. There are a certain subsection of diabetics for which it is absolutely vital. There's another subsection for which it probably should be worn for protection and used. And then there's another subsection that really have very minimal problems when it comes to their feet and don't necessarily need to have this much protection. But if you do need diabetic shoes, and you do have foot problems that can potentially lead to developing wounds and infections, then it's very important that they be worn because they will protect the feet from developing shoe-related issues. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on all things foot and ankle. For more videos on this site as well as others, You may check those sites out, or you may visit my website at www.inpodiatrygroup.com. Thank you.